Hosting can be fun, but let's face it, it can also be nerve-wracking, especially if you don't feel confident. Good day, everyone. My name is Matt Mopera, and welcome to the very first episode of Learn with Matt. And for today, we are going to talk about hosting. Let's focus on how to host or how to do hosting in front of an actual audience. Remember that as a host, it is expected that you are in control. And whenever you are on that stage, you're the one driving everything. You're the one driving the audience. You're the one driving the entire program. So you have to make sure that you are at your best when you're on that stage and when you're performing in front of everyone. And yes, it's performing because hosting is basically a performance as well. Keep that in mind. Now, on with the tips. First, know what the event is about. Knowing the kind of event you're hosting is very important because all your major decisions will basically depend on it. Like, for instance, what kind of personality should we project in front of the audience, which is appropriate to the event. Yes, I do believe that the best hosts are the ones who are genuine, the hosts who are just being themselves on stage. Because, I also do it. That's also my style. But we have to remember that there are times that our clients are clear with their requirements. And these requirements include the do's and don'ts, especially when it comes to corporate events. Like, there are things that you are allowed to say, but there are also things that you are totally not allowed to. Now, when it comes to other celebrations, like let's say birthdays or weddings, the question is, how casual can you be? Okay, because sometimes these events might just be light, and sometimes the client would require you or would ask you to just keep it light and fun. So, up to what extent are you allowed to be light and fun? But whatever personality, you have to remember that you need to be confident in front no matter what. That confidence is basically your weapon. And remember that you will be able to survive as long as you have that confidence. Also, know your audience beforehand. Before even stepping on that stage, learn how to assess them. If possible, ask for their demographics, their profile, even before you start hosting, so that you can prepare for it. Because you have to customize your approach depending on the audience. Like, for example, humor. Okay? Like, humor is important, of course, in any hosting gig. It's important to keep the party alive or to keep the event alive. Okay? But the question is, what kind of humor should you use? Let's say meme jokes, millennial or Gen Z jokes. Now, while these may work for the younger members of the audience, how about the older ones? Okay? How can you engage them if they cannot even relate to what the joke is about? Last item for this tip would be the attire. Okay? It's very important that you know the right attire. Remember, everyone is going to look at you. So please try your best to coordinate this with your client before the event. Tip number 2, check the venue. If possible, go to the venue as early as you can. If there are tech runs being conducted during the ingress or the preparation before the event, be there. You have to be familiar with the space, with the stage, because that will also spark ideas as to how much you can make use of the entire venue based on your vision as a host. Like, for instance, are you the type of host who loves to roam around the area and engage everyone? Well, if the venue will allow you to do that, then by all means, go ahead. How big is the stage? Remember that movement is very important when it comes to hosting, because the way you explore the stage is an indicator of how confident you are. And remember, this has to be felt by your audience. and it makes a lot of difference. Also, blockings. Remember that it's crucial for you to be conscious every time as to how you position yourself on the stage. Tip number 3, give that energy. Remember that hosts are expected to drive the event, as I mentioned earlier. And one way of it being driven is to keep that energy no matter what. And it's also important that you're able to maintain that energy from start to finish. And I'm saying this because some hosts tend to lose their spark along the way when they get tired, and sometimes it's obvious. The audience would know it. And them noticing it can actually lead to you losing that momentum, which is hard to regain, just so you know. So you have to start right and you have to end right, but let me just remind you that in using your energy, you have to be strategic. Use only the right amount of energy so that you can survive until the last part of the program. Also, don't overdo or underdo it. Imagine your host being like this. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the annual recognition program. I am your host, Matt, and tonight we'll have fun. Or something like this. Good evening, everyone. Yes, and welcome to the annual recognition program. Tonight, we will definitely have fun. Are you excited? Because I am. And that's what I'm talking about. Don't underdo it and don't overdo it if you don't want to startle or to shock your audience. Tip number 4, be spontaneous. Alright, so let me begin by saying that being spontaneous requires a lot of exposure and practice. I mean, for newbies, it's quite normal to see that they depend everything on the script from start to finish. And that's normal because they have to be guided. But you also have to remember that there are a lot of things happening in the actual event that may not be on that script. For example, interjections or your expressions. Some scripts really do include these required emotions, but the only purpose is to just inform you about the kind of mood that you should set during that time that you're delivering the line. But it doesn't literally mean that you need to read whatever is on that script. Just imagine someone doing this. So that was a really, really entertaining number, right? You had fun, right? Compared to this. Thank you. That was really, really fun. And I am sure that our audience also had a great time, right? Remember not to look at your script the entire time. First, it could be a sign of not having enough confidence. And second, if not done right, it can be a distraction, especially if you read like this, that you're totally covering your face and you're not even aware of it. But remember, your audience will always notice. And for the same reason I mentioned earlier, there are certain parts of the program or the flow that will go beyond the script. What you can do is probably just familiarize yourself with the flow of the program, the important names, important announcements, important dates, other important details that you need to accurately deliver. But as for the other elements, like again, your expressions or even the transitions, try to be as spontaneous as you can. And the key here is for you to practice your script as frequent as you can so it will become part of your system even before stepping on that stage. There are also some instances that your spontaneity will be challenged. Like, let's say, and just so you know, this frequently happens, when there are some technical difficulties wherein you need to stretch right? And when you see the floor director doing this gesture, asking you to stretch or to say more, that may not be on your script. So what can you do? And how can you be spontaneous even without looking at your script? If you have a co-host, then that would be easier because banter is the key. You can just casually engage yourself in a conversation with that person or with your partner, and you can share your insights about the event. You can also talk about, for example, if there are like raffle prizes, like you can talk about the raffle prizes and share how excited you are, okay, for the audience. There are ways, and you can prepare for these unexpected situations. But let me tell you, these are somehow expected. Tip number 5, build rapport. Now, the challenge for every host is to constantly check on their audience. Are they still engaged? Are they still with you? And the biggest frustration really is when you get no response at all. That's the biggest nightmare. Who's excited for the raffle prizes? What? I can't hear you. Again, who's excited for the raffle prizes? Come on, guys. Come on, who's excited for the raffle prizes? These are raffle prizes you will win for free. Don't be like that. Okay? Never. Just keep the momentum, keep the confidence. Alright? Try to engage them as much as you can. But if the response is really quite challenging from them, then try to do other ways in order for you to keep the party alive. Now, who's excited for the raffle prizes? I know you're a bit tired probably, but I'm sure that all of you are still excited because, just so you know, these prizes are life-changing. How's that? See? Yeah. Okay, so just always be confident. And when you have a co-host, again, you have to learn how to coexist with them on the stage. Remember to know your co-host first before being on stage. What kind of personality does this host have? How can I make a connection with this person? How can we have that chemistry on stage? So try to have a small talk with that person before the event. Find similarities. Find your common denominator so that you will have that chemistry once you're already there. Tip number 6, monitor your paralanguage. Now, paralanguage includes the tone, pacing, rhythm, rate, volume, and others. So in short, how you bring life to your delivery. You have probably seen a host like this. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our year-end party, and I am Matt, and I am excited to start the program with all of you. There are a lot of prizes to be given, a lot of performers, and let's have a fun night. It was a year-end party example. It was a party. So if you're going to be mindful and conscious about your paralanguage, then you can avoid such problem. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the annual year-end party. And I am sure that you are all excited because, are you ready for this? Drum roll? Well, we are giving away some great prizes, and there are performances to look forward to. So, have fun and enjoy. See the difference? And last but definitely not the least, tip number 7. Be nervous, be motivated. Well, you might be weirded out because I just asked you to be nervous. Well, that's because based on experience, a little bit of nervousness is quite essential. It's totally normal to feel nervous, and I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking, Matt, you've been hosting for quite some time already, and still, you feel nervous? Well, for me, when you're nervous or when you're anxious before hosting, it's actually because you want to give your best. You don't want to mess up on that stage, right? And if you have that kind of mindset, then that's good because you want to give your best. You want to be at your best. So, that being said, you know that it's something that would fulfill you, something that would complete you, something that would make you happy. And if you have that kind of goal, then all the more that you need to focus on how to become the best version of yourself while performing on that stage. But don't let it devour you, all right? So normally, it would just last for a few seconds. To me, probably 2 minutes at most. But eventually, you'll feel better, okay? So just make sure that you will be able to bounce back from that feeling. And I'm telling you, after you overcome it, you will definitely give your best. And that's it for today. And I hope that you learned something. Now, it's not every day that you get the chance to host, okay? But if there is an opportunity and you want to grab it, then go ahead. And I hope that you can find these tips useful for you and be ready to blow them away with your effective hosting skills. I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.